Have you ever felt the pulse of something unseen, tugging gently at your soul, as though the forest itself remembers you? In the deep, shadowed lungs of the Congo basin, where the breath of every ancient tree still carries whispers of primal truth, a moment unfolded that would stitch itself permanently into the fabric of one woman's life. Her name was Anya, a ranger, yes, but more than that, a quiet guardian of the wild, a woman whose heart beat with the rhythm of the jungle itself. That morning was different. The mist hung low, heavy with a hush too sacred to break. Every leaf trembled with silent anticipation. Then came the moment. A darkness, vast and ancient, emerged. Not just a predator, but a towering force of primal reckoning. Time collapsed. Death was inches away. Her chest froze mid-breath. Her limbs, once trained for such dangers, locked with fear. But just as the veil of the end seemed to fall over her eyes, the jungle answered. A roar erupted through the canopy, fierce, timeless, not of menace, but of memory. The sound shook the bones of the forest. Was it the cry of fate? Or the return of something once lost? In that frozen breath between then and now, the forest reached back, and a bond long buried under time burst forth. It wasn't an echo, it was a vow returned. A whisper from the past roaring into the present. The guardian had come. The righteous care for the needs of their animals, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. Imagine a soul, battered and broken, left to bleed at the edge of a world too wild to forgive, and yet somehow still seen. Years ago, before the forest had tested her spirit, Anya was just a young ranger with trembling hands and a heart too soft for this ruthless terrain. On one of her first patrols, she stumbled upon a tragedy soaked in blood. A baby gorilla, barely old enough to stand, caught in a brutal snare. Its screams were unlike anything she'd heard: pain, terror, and betrayal. The mother lay lifeless nearby, butchered by poachers for meat or trophies. The baby, drenched in its own blood, flailed in hopeless agony. Around her, other rangers exchanged grim looks. They spoke of protocol, of resources, of survival ratios. To them, the baby was a statistic, a footnote in a battle too large to fight on feelings. But Anya didn't see numbers. She saw eyes. Terrified, pleading eyes that clutched at her very soul. She knelt, she reached out. And in that moment, chose love over rules. She named him Kumba, strong heart, a name soaked in her own trembling hope. Back at camp, she stayed by him day and night, cleaned his wounds with trembling hands, rocked him to sleep under mosquito nets, sang to him beneath the roar of monsoons. Kumba began to heal, his tiny frame filled out. His eyes grew brave. The day he stood on his own legs and looked up at her, not in fear, but in trust, she cried. And when it was time to release him, she walked him into the green arms of the forest, placed him gently on the earth, and he stared at her silent, eyes wide as though memorizing her soul. Then he turned and was gone. Whatever you did for one of the least of these, you did for me. Have you ever seen gratitude in its purest, wordless form carved into the gaze of an animal? The kind that passes through language, through species, through time. For years, Anya returned to that moment in her mind. Nights in the ranger station, when the forest fell asleep and the crickets held council, she would close her eyes and see Kumba, still small, still broken, still hers. But time didn't stop. The jungle devoured days and years like a hungry flame. Kumba, wherever he was no longer a cub. Anya grew hardened. Her missions took her deeper into the wild. But part of her, the soft, secret part, always listened for a sign. And then, like fate itself had been waiting, it came. A strange blip on an old GPS tracker. A solitary adult gorilla. No troop, no migration pattern. Just, circling. The signal came from near the same ridge where Kumba had once been found. The device ID, K27, Anya's heart jolted. That old designation, she remembered entering it herself all those years ago, in ink that had long since faded. Her breath caught. Could it be? She didn't ask permission. She volunteered. She had to see. The wilderness and the dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom like the rose. The forest was different that day, thicker, wetter, as if the earth itself held its breath. The sun broke through in solemn streaks, painting golden trails through the mist. Anya walked alone, boots crunching on moss and fallen fruit, the old GPS screen blinking with stubborn rhythm. Closer, closer, her pulse quickened. Then, silence. Not the gentle kind. The terrifying kind, no birds, no monkeys. Just stillness. So complete it screamed, her boots stopped. Ahead, the vines were shredded, freshly. Something massive had passed. She knelt, fingers brushing over disturbed mud. Then a hiss like death itself. From her left, the jungle exploded, a python, 6 meters of raw, muscular terror. It slammed her sideways into the earth. Coils wrapped around her torso like steel cables. She gasped, hands fumbling for the knife on her belt, but she couldn't move. The grip crushed her ribs, light faded. Spots danced across her eyes. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. But the jungle was not silent anymore. From deep within the trees, it came. That same roar, louder, older, wiser, and it came closer. Branches shattered, birds took flight. And suddenly the python reeled back with a screech of confusion. Something tore it off her, claws, fists, fury. And then her vision cleared just enough to see a massive silverback standing over her like a wall of memory and muscle. His eyes met hers. Not wild, not strange, but familiar, gentle, knowing. She whispered it before she believed it. "Kumba?" His chest heaved, not with rage, but with recognition. The python was gone, vanished into the underbrush. But Kumba remained. He reached out, softly, fingers touching the edge of her shoulder like a brother waking his sister. No growl, no fear, just, "Home, I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your wonders of old." Kumba had returned, not out of instinct, not by accident. But for her, the jungle had remembered, the bond had endured. A life once saved had now become the savior. And in that sacred glade, beneath the towering cathedral of trees, one woman and one gorilla wept without sound, their spirits echoing. Across the canopy, this is more than an animal rescue. It's a promise that the wild never forgets kindness, that every act of mercy echoes louder than time. This is a touching animal story, a viral YouTube story, a dramatic wildlife rescue, a wild bond beyond words. A human and animal connection born not of biology, but of spirit. The forest spun like a carousel of chaos, and Anya's breath vanished into the air like a forgotten prayer. Her vision blurred, her heartbeat thumped violently, then halted. She hadn't known, she hadn't seen it. She had unknowingly stepped into a place cursed by waiting death, a hunting ground marked in silence, watched for days by eyes that glowed like fire in the shadows. The python had waited not by chance, but with instinctual precision. It saw her not as a protector, not as a soul. In its cold, ancient eyes, she was prey. When the coils wrapped around her and the air fled from her lungs, Anya screamed, a raw, human scream. But it was devoured by the cruel silence of the Congo. The trees stood as silent witnesses. The birds, the insects, the leaves, none moved. Would she vanish here, buried beneath vines and scales? Would this sacred forest become her grave? And then it came. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. A sound rose deep, thunderous, tearing, the stillness like a divine blade. It was not the call of a hunter. It was the roar of fury, of guardianship, of love remembered. From the unseen depths of the forest, a wind rushed. Birds exploded into the sky in terrified flocks. The earth trembled beneath Anya's twisted body. The bush behind her parted with explosive violence, and out came the shadow, a silhouette. Carved from memory and muscle, Kumba, the silverback gorilla, now a colossus of the wild, charged forward like a divine storm. Nearly 200 kilograms of power and purpose. His muscles rippled with strength forged in the harsh crucible of the wild. But it wasn't rage in his eyes. It was recognition. It was remembrance. The bond hadn't died, it had grown. In the roar he bellowed was the memory of warm hands, soft cloth, and a voice that once sang to a dying child. Kumba remembered. And now he had returned. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friend. The python hesitated, shocked by the sudden arrival of this giant spirit, but it did not relent. It coiled tighter, stubborn in its hunt. Kumba did not waver. He slammed the ground with both fists, erupting dust into the air. His roar echoed like a tribal drum across the basin. He grabbed a thick branch, gnarled and strong, and struck the python's writhing form, once, twice, a third time. The snake loosened. Kumba roared again and lunged, teeth bared, hands fierce. With a final surge, he tore the python's tail from Anya's leg and stood between her and death, body wide, arms extended, roaring with righteous power. The python retreated, broken, defeated, and slithering back into the ghosted depths of the jungle, and then silence returned. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. Anya gasped, her chest rising. Like waves crashing on shore, dirt mixed with her tears. Her whole body trembled with pain, but she was alive. She turned her head slowly and saw it. A large, fur-covered hand rested gently on her shoulder. Not firm, not aggressive. Just there a touch that spoke concern, not conquest. She looked up. Kumba was watching her. No longer the frail infant of years past, but a protector born of the wild and sculpted by survival. His eyes glistened not with instinct, but something far deeper. She whispered his name, lips shaking with pain and wonder. Kumba? The gorilla gave the smallest nod, soft, solemn, understanding. Then, silently, he raised one hand and gently touched her forehead, just as she had done for him all those years ago when he was writhing in fever and fear. The trees didn't rustle, the wind didn't blow, even the insects fell quiet. The forest had paused, for them. Two lives from different worlds, now fused by something beyond nature or nurture. A sacred moment etched into the heart of the wild. Love bears all things. Believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. Time passed. A few hours, perhaps. When the rescue team arrived, they found her leaning gently against a tree, bloodied but alive. Her body bore the marks of a python's rage, but her soul carried something more mysterious, giant footprints surrounding her like a circle of protection. No one could explain it. No radio contact had been made, no flare fired, and yet she had survived. They carried her back with reverence. She said little, she didn't need to. Some stories speak for themselves. But days later, reviewing footage from the motion sensor cameras laced through the jungle for conservation study, they saw it proof that the wild had watched over her every morning at dawn. A shadow appeared, towering, still. Kumba. He would walk to the clearing, stop, look toward the ranger station, not in fear, not in hunger, but in still, quiet recognition. And then he would vanish, his dark form slipping into the forest like mist, leaving only silence and footprints behind. Every single morning, until the cameras could see him no more, the spirit of man is the lamp of the Lord, searching all his innermost parts. Anya and Kumba's story is not just a dramatic wildlife rescue, it's a miracle, a message. A soul-deep reminder that compassion leaves a trail. It echoes beyond species, beyond years, beyond even the laws of the jungle. In saving Kumba, Anya unknowingly saved herself. In returning, Kumba reminded us all animals remember love. The wild never forgets kindness. Their story is a living parable. A reminder that when we touch the life of a creature in need, we ignite a fire that burns brighter than we know. Kumba wasn't just a gorilla she once saved. He was her legacy. Her protector. Her proof that love transcends biology. This is an emotional, true story. A heartwarming animal video. A wild bond that shattered every rule. A touching animal story, rooted not in chance but in choice. A viral YouTube story of animal miracle and survival. Of human and animal connection. Of two hearts beating across time and meeting again when it mattered most. If this story touched your heart, share it. Let Kumba's roar echo far and wide. Subscribe for more animal rescue miracles and emotional wildlife stories that show us what humanity truly means. And tell us in the comments, what animal changed your life forever? Together, let's ensure these stories don't fade. Let's protect these strong hearts so they can keep saving ours.